In 2022, a Shenyang loner died alone and wasn't found for 3 months. Police enter. Everything looked normal, even half-eaten food on the table. Strangers. The old bedside radio still played that day's forecast. Reviewing hallway CCTV, management found the door locked, turned itself 3 times every Tuesday at 3 a.m. His old pre-walk check. Once, Chen, 83, retired from Shenyang heavy machinery plant, lives alone in an old TXC district home. His partner died 11 years ago. Son settled in Shanghai, coming home once yearly. He's sturdy, just hard of hearing, and still runs his 90s Panda radio all day, listening to storytelling, news, and weather reports. Spring 2022. Neighbors noticed Uncle Chen hadn't gone downstairs for walks lately. The community office called, but his phone was off. No one answered the door when they knocked, so they called the police. On April 17, the police opened the door. Old man Chen was slumped in the wicker chair by his bed. Forensics confirmed time of death was mid-January, from natural causes. The bedside radio stayed on, crackling for a moment. Then, right on cue, reported today's high temperature, 13 degrees Celsius, nothing unusual on scene. Old man looked peaceful, and house was tidy inside. Some rushed back from Shanghai, finished the funeral, and hired an agent to sell the home, listed nearly 6 months. Many toured, but no sale yet. A neighbor privately told the agent that something was off about the apartment. The agent asked what was off. The neighbor said that every Tuesday at 3 in the morning, you could always hear the sound of that door lock turning in the hallway. Click, clack, click. 3 sounds, then a pause, then silence. Someone stands outside the door. At first, they thought it was the wind, but someone staked it out later. It wasn't the wind. The lock was turning on its own. Every Tuesday, 3 in the morning, without fail. The agent pulled the hallway CCTV on camera. An empty corridor at 3 a.m. That door's lock handle steadily pressed down 3 times. Each drop identical in range and force, as if held by an invisible hand. It returned to its original position 3 seconds later. There was nothing in the frame. But off camera, everyone present heard those 3 sounds. Click, clack, click. As the story spread, even fewer people dared to buy the apartment. Son returned from Shanghai to settle this. Searched his father's keepsakes indoors. Hoping to take old photos, he pulled a manila envelope from the wardrobe lining, stuffed with many bus tickets. They were all for the number 2 bus, spanning from 2011 to 2022, 1 for each month, without a single gap. January 2022 tickets sat atop, clean and still untouched. The son froze. His grandmother, his father's mom, had once lived in Shaoyangtan, right beside the Route 2 bus terminal there. Grandma died in 2007. Dad never mentioned it, yet still often visited her grave. Old Lee blurted, "Your dad rides bus 2 to Shaoyangtan every Tuesday, rain or shine. 10+ years. He went afternoons, back at dusk. Each time he returned, he carried fresh flowers." His son gripped the ticket stack, throat tightening, watching. His father had never told him, and he had never asked. Before the son left, he spent a day in Shaoyangtan. The grave was on the hillside behind the village. Next to his grandmother's grave was an empty plot. Old caretaker recognized him. "Your dad came often, never long, sat by the grave, smoked a cigarette, chatted." The gravekeeper paused and lowered his voice. "Last year, lunar month 16, your dad came over again. It was bitter cold. I told him go home early. He said no rush, waiting for the bus. On lunar December 16, my son checked the calendar. It was January 18. The coroner set death in roughly mid-January. He opened the stack of bus tickets. The date on the last one was January 18, 2022. 2 in the afternoon, number 2 bus, towards Shaoyangtan. There was no return ticket. That afternoon, Chen took the number 2 bus to his mother's grave and sat there for a long time. Then he went home, put the bus ticket in the envelope, sat down in his wicker chair, turned on the radio, and never got up again. Think about it. On the day he died, he went to his mother's grave. It was his farewell, and no one knew. The house eventually sold for less. The tenants, a young couple, didn't believe any of it. On signing day, the wife casually asked the agent if the previous old tenant had any weird habits. The agent paused, not sure otherwise. Just heard he goes out every Tuesday. What about Wednesday? The old guard added. He rarely goes out Wednesdays. Wednesdays are for resting. He paused, then added, Wednesday is the anniversary of his late wife's death. The young wife asked no more. On their first Wednesday night in the house, she woke before dawn, heard the living room radio hiss once, then click off quietly by itself. She stayed in bed. Next morning, her husband asked, Did you turn on the radio last night? She said no. The husband said, That's strange. I'm sure I turned off that radio last night, but when I looked this morning, it was plugged in. She gazed out the window, said nothing at all. This king someone saw a Shanghai plated car parked beneath that old building downstairs once. A middle-aged man stood at the building's entrance for a long time, but didn't go up. He left chrysanthemums by the door, bowed 10 minutes, then drove away without a word. Underneath the white chrysanthemums was a number 2 bus ticket, brand new, dated for that day. No one took the flowers. In the evening, the wind picked up, knocking the bouquet over. The ticket fluttered into the hallway and landed in front of the door on the 3rd floor. The lock remained silent, never making a sound again. But the neighbors say that sometimes, late at night, they can hear the static of that old radio. It doesn't seem to come from any particular apartment. It's like it's in the wind, in the pipes, in all the unsealed cracks, listening to the rest of the world's weather forecast for someone who can never return.